What's up, everybody? My name is Brad, and today I've got another book review for you. And I'm going to be talking about The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. This is his newest release. I have read one of his other books. I read the Underground Railroad, and I'll put a link to it up here in the cards. It was one of my first videos I ever did on the channel, so it's probably not very good, but it's up there anyway if you want to go check it out. But for this one, The Nickel Boys, I usually read the synopsis for my book reviews, but this time I'm not going to, because I feel like it gives a little bit too much away about the story. But as always, I have a link to the book. I usually put Amazon links where you can go buy the book if you're interested. I'm not an affiliate or anything. I don't get anything from you clicking on the link, but it's there if you want to click on it and read the synopsis for yourself. But for this book was heartbreaking. It was emotional. At times I laughed. Other times I was angry and pissed off. It just was a roller coaster ride of emotions. But the writing in here was fantastic by Colson Whitehead, just like his other book, The Underground Railroad. This was a solid 5-star read. I highly recommend you check it out. This tells the story for the most part, it takes place in the 1960s, right in the heart of the civil rights movement, with Martin Luther King Jr. and I believe Malcolm X was active at this time and everybody. But our story really focuses on Elwood Curtis. He's a senior in high school. Obviously, he's a black boy, and which all the characters that we're following are African Americans. But his mother and father abandoned him, so he lives with his grandmother. But he is kept on the straight and narrow. He's not like really any of the other kids in his neighborhood. He doesn't roughhouse. He doesn't get into trouble. He gets really good grades. He's really smart. He's really responsible with the job that he has, and he's looking to a bright future, even though he does live in the South. The Jim Crow laws are active at this time, basically keeping the African Americans down, what they can do, what they're able to do. But he still has a bright future ahead of him. He's going to be taking college classes during his senior year in high school, and he's really looking forward to it. He's sort of caught up in the ideals, the civil rights movement, especially Martin Luther King Jr. and his ideals and his philosophies. And he has a record from one of Martin Luther King's speeches that he plays over and over again. And he wants to be part of the civil rights movement, but he's a little scared of the repercussions. He sees these newspaper articles where people are having sit-ins at restaurants at the counter, and they're getting beat and sprayed down with the water hoses and attacked by dogs. And so he wants to stick up for what he's starting to believe in, but on the other hand, he doesn't know if he can quite do it because of the repercussions. And that's sort of where his mindset is when a bad situation happens to him where he gets in trouble for something he really didn't do, shouldn't have been in trouble for, and he gets sent to the Nickel Academy, which is a reform school for boys. Instead of it being like prison, it was supposed to be a place of education and reform, where these boys would be sent to learn sort of manners and keep their education up and a good work ethic, so they could be reintegrated into society. But really, that's all a facade. It's really a house of horrors where there's physical abuse, mental abuse, there's sexual abuse. The conditions aren't the greatest. There's no prison walls or prison fence, but they are imprisoned anyway. They're sort of the fear of the administrators and what they do to the kids has struck a fear in them where they're really prisoners of their own mind. They can't get out, even though there's nothing stopping them really from getting out. Obviously they would be chased and hunted if they were to escape, well, there's no physical barriers keeping them there. And just the atrocities that the book talks about were, like I said, they're horrifying. I've been reading a lot of horror books lately, and this is a step away from that. As far as, there's no ghosts or monsters in this book. Well, this is all the real life human horrors. This is based on a true story. It is, let me see, it's in the back here. The Nickel Academy, which is the school in the book, it is actually based on the Arthur G. Dozer School for Boys that was in Marianna, Florida. So it was a real place. I believe it opened up around 1900 or so, and it actually didn't close until 2011, which was shocking. And in 2014, they were sort of excavating the area, and they found this mass grave of unidentified remains, and it causes big investigation and things on the news. I had never heard of it before until I read this book, but it was a real place, and for the most part, I did, after read this review, I watched some interviews with the author and some videos about the actual boys' home, and Colson Whitehead did a pretty good job of staying factual to, from what it seems like, the layout and geography of the place. Especially there's one place in here, it was called the White House, and in one of the videos I watched, the White House was actually there. It was sort of this like little shed building, and that is where they would take the boys and they would beat them with this 4-foot-long leather strap that they called Black Beauty. But kids in here, they would go missing. They would be taken out back, and basically when you were taken out back, you never returned. You were killed, beaten to death, shot, whatever it may be. So like I said, this book, it really shows just how awful people can be to each other for really no reason whatsoever. Just because of someone's skin color, to treat them, the atrocities that, the boys in the book had to go through at the school, and, before that, slavery and everything. It's just absolutely ridiculous how awful we treat each other. Even today, racism still is a very topical subject today. It still is very rampant. Being a white male that works from home, I don't go out too awful much, and for me, I don't have to deal with racism. So for me, saying this, it doesn't seem as bad as it used to be. People aren't breaking into people's homes and kidnapping them and lynching them and things. So I don't want to say it's not as bad as it used to be, but it is different than it used to be. It's taken on different faces than it used to be. Now you see on the news about African Americans getting shot by police and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to get too much into the politics, but racism, I don't want to say it's changed too much as far as gotten better, but it has taken a new face in today's more modern society than back in the 60s. There's a few quotes that really stuck out to me that I wanted to read. I believe they're all Martin Luther King Jr. quotes, and I don't know if Colson Whitehead if they're verbatim or if he's twisted them a little bit for his book, but they just really stuck out to me, and I wanted to read a few quotes here. Throw us in jail and we will still love you. Bomb our homes and threaten our children, and as difficult as it is, we will still love you. Send your hooded perpetrators of violence into our communities after midnight hours and drag us out onto some wayside road and beat us and leave us half dead, and we will still love you. But be ye assured that we will wear you down by our capacity to sever, and one day we will win our freedom. Now there's another quote in here. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, the Reverend said. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And then there was one more. If I didn't just lose the page. It's a little bit from the other quote, but it's a little bit longer. Throw us in jail and we will still love you. But be assured that we will wear you down by our capacity to suffer, and one day we will win our freedom. We will not only win freedom for ourselves, we will so appeal to your heart and your conscience that we will win you in the process, and our victory will be a double victory. So those quotes just really stuck out to me. Like I said, I believe they're all from Martin Luther King. I don't know if they're verbatim or if Colson changed them up a little bit for the story. But I really like this story. Like I said, it was heartbreaking. There's something that happens in here that was just a complete gut punch that I did not see coming at all, and actually had to close the book and put it down and just sort of stew and think about what just happened. It hit me that hard. There's moments of levity in here where you're laughing with the boys at some of the antics they pull, and you see a glimmer of hope, and then you turn the page and that glimmer of hope has just been dashed away. But like I said, we follow Curtis Elwood. Sorry, this review's sort of all over the place. But we follow Curtis, and he gets sent to this boy's home, and he sort of had this hopeful outlook on life, and he makes a friend named Turner, who's sort of a pessimist and skeptical about everything. He just thinks things are bad, and that's the way they are, and they're not going to change. So the back and forth between Elwood and Turner throughout the story, their different worldviews, that was really fun to read. I don't want to say fun. This wasn't a fun book. It was a very, I don't know what the word is. It was a very engrossing, engaging book, but it wasn't fun. Fun's not the right word. But I did enjoy their different viewpoints, and I loved, there's an epilogue. I loved the ending. I loved how it ended. It brought something back from near the beginning, sort of well-rounded the story. I really like that. If you do read this, I suggest you read the afterword as well. Colson Whitehead talks about his inspiration for this story, more about the real boys' home this is based off of, and some places where he got some of the quotes and things for the book, which was interesting. And there's a website in here. I want to read that off real quick. And I'll also put it in the description. But it is the official whitehouseboys.org is the real website that was set up for the real boys who would now be men who survived the Dozier home, and sort of all their testimonies about what all they went through and everything. So if you'd like to check that out, I'll put a link to that down in the description as well. But overall, like I said, this is a solid 5-star read. Probably the best book I've read so far this year. It was super emotional, and I think that everyone should read this, whether you like Colson Whitehead, don't like him. This is an important book I believe that everyone should read, especially for the times we're in now, where there's such upheaval with racism, and this same stuff can be applied to sexism and all that kind of stuff. This is a really important book that I think everyone should read. But that's all I have to say about it. I've probably rambled on too long. But this has been The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. So thanks for spending your time with me. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.